Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is June 11th of 2025. It is the day before my 26th birthday. I feel like I say this every year I film this video, but truly it is crazy that it is already this time again to film this video the day before my birthday. As always, I try to do the number of things for the number of years, so today's video will be 26 things I have learned by 26. And I do have them written in my new diary for the year. This one was actually a Christmas gift from one of my dear friends, Shelby. It has my name on the front, which I thought was so sweet. Also, a little disclaimer before we dive in. I feel like I say this in pretty much every one of these videos, but some of these realizations may seem a little silly or weird. They're really just things that I write down throughout the year, whether they're a quote or a takeaway or something that I took as a lesson throughout the year. So as always, I will dive into some, but others I will just leave it be. But yeah, if they seem kind of silly or weird, they're really not meant for necessarily everyone. These are just the things that I have taken away and thought that I would want to write down. So without further ado, these are the 26 things I have learned by 26. Number 1, not everyone is made for everyone. This is a quote by Jennifer Stone on the Wizards of Waverly Pod podcast. Yeah, a good disclaimer before we get too deep into this video. I do love a good quote. I love a good takeaway. So a lot of these will be quotes from different podcasts that I listen to or watch. But yeah, this is definitely one that I think I've just struggled generally throughout my life, is just the people-pleasing tendencies and wanting people to like me. So any quote along those lines I definitely can take away. So I just like how she said that there. Number 2, if you don't know, then you know. This, I believe, is from the Ava Jules podcast. I can't really remember what she was specifically talking about when she was talking about this quote, but I think it was along the lines of just like trusting your gut, and something like, if you don't have an answer, then I think you know deep down what the answer is. Number 3, we are constantly fighting to listen to our own intuition. This is from the Emma Chamberlain podcast. Number 4, life is simple, people complicated. This is from Kent, who was a girl master from season 12 Chopped. My roommate and I, for the past year, have been binge watching Chopped. It's like our shared show that we do together. And I don't know that I expected a quote from a chef or a grill master or a contestant from this show to make it into my list this year, but I think when he said that, it was just at a point in my life where I was feeling very overwhelmed. And I think quotes about life being simple and how it's us that make it as hard as it is always stick to me also, so I really appreciated that one too. Number 5, you cannot use someone else's map to find yourself. This was a quote I found on Pinterest. Number 6, there's a lot of comfort in certainty, but in uncertainty is where you find possibility. This is from Crispy, who was on Michelle Phan's podcast. I can definitely relate to this, especially with this past year. I feel like I was really trying to push myself in different areas and just see what life could have in store for me if I just said yes more. And yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable for sure, but I truly believe that if you want to change your life or see a change happen, you have to be the one to make it happen. And in order to do that, you might have to go into some uncomfortable zones. So number 7, anything you lose by being real was fake. This I saw on TikTok. Number 8, love is 2 people encouraging each other to live. This was a comment I saw on TikTok. Yeah, even when I was writing down all of my takeaways in preparation for this video, I had to rewrite down this one. This one really stuck out to me in the list of my 26 things that I wrote down, because I think it's just such a wholesome way to look at love, and I think that can be applicable to not just romantic relationships, but the way that you love your family, the way that you love your friends. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it like that before, like the encouraging each other to live part. Wow, I really love that kind of perspective on love. Number 9, you don't have to be ready, you just have to be brave. This was a quote I saw on Pinterest. Again, I think of just pushing myself to do things that I thought were kind of scary this year. I think a lot of times I am my biggest roadblock to my own life, and I think just reminding myself that I don't have to have all the answers and I don't have to be necessarily prepared to just move forward. I think that's like my general roadblock is, well, I'm nervous about this, I have a fear about this, I have an anxiety about this, so if I'm not fully ready for it, then I can just excuse my fear and not move forward with what I want to do with my life, but that doesn't always have to be the case. You can choose to be brave instead. Number 10, are you tired because you need sleep, or are you tired because you need peace? This one was just a takeaway or a lesson that I had for myself. I think this was earlier on in my 26th year of life. Because I think that's what birthdays are, celebrating your completion of the year, so like my 26th year of life. Not that it like rhymes, but it kind of felt poetic the way that I had that thought, so I really liked it, so I wrote it down for my list for this year. But that's also a topic that I've struggled with for a very long time in my life, is just the idea of sleep and rest and allowing myself to do that. But also just the idea of taking care of myself, spending time with myself, and just being at a state of peace and not constantly running around trying to do things. So I think it was just a good like check-in type question, I think is why I wrote it down, was just, are you tired because you need sleep? Or are you tired because you need peace? Like just a good general check-in with myself. So I definitely want to remember that moving forward. I definitely want to remember that one. Number 11, what's the best that can happen? This is a quote I saw on Pinterest. I love this one so much. When I was writing this one down also, it kind of stuck out to me. Because obviously we all think about like the typical question of what's the worst that can happen. And I've definitely heard people in my life say like, but what's the best that could happen, you know, as like a positive way to like flip the type of question. But I think when I saw it visually, it really stuck with me. So yeah, I really like that one. Number 12, there is no right time. There is just time and what you choose to do with it. This was a quote I saw on Pinterest. Number 13, kindness is love with its work boots on. This is also a quote I saw on Pinterest. Number 14, breathe and leave. Me 2025. I love that I specifically wrote me 2025, so I wouldn't forget that this was a quote by me. I'm sure other people have said this quote too before, but I think as far as my working memory goes, I'm the first one to hear myself say it, so I decided to quote myself for this one. But I think I, with my people-pleasing tendencies, can get into a lot of situations that I don't desire to continue to be in. And so I think I had a breathe and leave like breakthrough or takeaway this year, and I was like, wait, I love this phrasing, I'm gonna write that down. Number 15, outcomes we have zero control over. We only have control over our efforts. This was a quote from the Moments podcast. Number 16, it's okay to disappear for a while and focus on yourself again. Honestly, I think with this one, that's how you can find yourself again sometimes, is to disappear for a while, disconnect for a while. I think we can get so wrapped up into everything that's preoccupying our lives and maybe the lives of those around us that we can lose ourselves. And I think sometimes in order to regain that sense of like self, you have to give yourself the time and grace to disconnect and focus on you to find that again. Number 17, when relationships end, that's not a failure. Number 18, having a good nighttime routine is key to having a good morning time routine. Yeah, that one is nothing super profound, and I know everyone has heard everyone say it probably a billion times in their lifetime, but I think the older I get and the more I learn to prioritize myself and to take care of myself, I'm learning that doing the small steps to set yourself up for the next day is really key to having a great next day, so that's why I wrote that one down. Number 20 is very similar to the one I wrote for number 14. But number 20 is forgive and live. Again, me, 2025. This one I definitely remember writing down. Someone very close to my life was asking for my personal tips on how I'm not perfect at it by any means, do not get me wrong. And obviously my reference and my go-to, even speaking on the subject, would be the Bible and talking to God, because truly only through him can we forgive and live and move on. But this person was asking for my tips on how to like move past situations and to keep living with your life. And so I made a whole like note in my phone about it and sent it to them, which I might make a video on sometime, because I did spend a lot of time writing out all of my thoughts and notes for my process on how I go about doing that. And so I think I titled it Forgive and Live or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is such another great takeaway. I'm writing this one down for my year. So yeah, I'm definitely not perfect at it, and it definitely is something that I can only do through God's grace. But it's something that I am continually learning how to do every year, and it's always been a big topic in my life, is just the idea of forgiveness as a whole, I guess. I think not only is it important for the person that you're forgiving, but I think it's truly also important for you, the person who is doing the forgiving, which is why I wrote the and live part, because I feel like a lot of times it's so much easier to just hold on to the pain of it and almost like the hatred part of what that person might have done to you. And I mean, it's like you're not even just holding it against them, it's like you're holding it against yourself, and you're not letting and allowing yourself to heal and to live after that happened. So yeah, something I'm always working on, but something that the older I get, the more I see such the benefits of just forgiving and living, really. I mean, life is just too short to hold on to things when we have the option to heal. So number 21, the world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. This is a quote I saw on Pinterest. Number 22, when you do what you love, you won't be mad at other people for doing what they love. This was a quote from the Moments podcast. just to touch briefly on it, I can definitely relate to this quote. Not that I'm not happy for other people for doing what they love. I think it's definitely a jealousy thing. I think as someone who has been continually struggling with what is my life purpose, what am I supposed to do with my life, I feel like I have yet to really find like a footing anywhere. I think it's definitely a hard thing for me to witness other people doing what they love. I'm still happy for them, but I feel like instead of focusing all of that energy, I should just focus on finding what it is that I love to do and focus my time and energy on doing that. So, number 23, pleasing God over people pleasing. I don't know if I heard this one on a podcast, like this idea or this topic, or if I heard it in church, or if I just had like a breakthrough about this. But as I've mentioned already multiple times throughout this video and other videos on my channel, I have always struggled with people pleasing. And I might have heard this, I want to say I've heard this topic in church recently that was about how we should be focusing on pleasing God versus pleasing others. And immediately I was like, this adds a whole new layer to the people pleasing ordeal for me, because I think a lot of people who struggle with it, it doesn't come from, you don't think it comes from this place of like self-centeredness, but when you put it in this perspective where it's we should be pleasing God over people pleasing, I was like, okay, so hopefully if I remember this will help aid me in my journey towards stopping to do the people pleasing portion of that. So, and not that, you know, God doesn't want us to still be loving and hospitable to those all around us, obviously, but there's a line, and I think deep down, you know, if it's you being loving or if it's you just trying to people please out of the situation. So, number 24, doing it scared is just as brave. This is a quote I saw on Pinterest. This one sounds very similar to one I wrote down earlier, but I also love how this one was written. And so I think just back to the whole topic of holding myself back, I think a big lesson I've taken away from this year is, I guess, to just not prevent myself and be my biggest roadblock in life. Like, allow myself to do the things that I want to do, to push myself to do the things I want to do, even though I won't know the outcome until I do them. And even if it means doing it scared, honestly, that is kind of like an act of bravery. So yeah, I really like that one. Number 25, you don't drive until you run out of gas. You drive until you reach your destination. This is a quote from a book called Becoming a Yoga Instructor by Elizabeth Greenwood. I do really like this quote. I will say, writing it down again, I did have a thought on top of this quote. Technically, you can't keep driving if you don't have gas, so yes, you have to stop to fill up gas. I think that's also a good takeaway just in general, is like, you can't pour from an empty cup type of vibe. Like, you have to keep filling up in order to keep moving in the direction you want to head. But I think what she's trying to get at in this quote is still great takeaway to have, of just like, just because you hit a roadblock or just because you hit a stopping point or just because you need to take a break doesn't mean you should stop there. Like, if you know that you have a destination in mind, when you stop because you need to fill up or because you need to take a break, you get back in your car and you keep going. And I think that's just a great takeaway for me. Like, I feel like in different aspects of my life, I've taken breaks and I've not been pushing myself. And so I keep saying different versions of this, but I feel ready to push myself again. I feel like in this kind of context, I feel like I'm ready to get back into that car and to keep driving. So yeah, very excited to see what this next year has in store for me for sure. And number 26, the last quote I have is, live in the mile you're in. And I saw this one on Pinterest. I love this quote so much, especially since I am increasingly, as time goes on, getting more into running. I have now ran 4 5Ks. I'm about to run my first 10K, and then I have a 5th 5K that I'll be doing. And I know I've mentioned it a couple times on my channel already, but if this 10K goes well, I want to do my first half marathon next year. And so all that being said, I feel like there's just so many lessons and takeaways from really any activity that you can do in life, but I feel like especially with running, for some reason, not only am I like growing to love it as a form of physical activity, but also I just feel like there's so many metaphors and like quotes and comparisons that people make that I always take away when it comes to the topic of running. And since I've been getting into running, yoga, my health and fitness journey more and more, Pinterest and other sites keep recommending them to me. And so I've seen this quote actually a couple times now on Pinterest, and it's one that keeps cycling through my brain. And I love it so much. I obviously love it in the running context of just being like, focus on the current mile that you're in because you may have X amount of miles to go. But also just in like an out of running context, just I feel like it's so applicable to life. I feel like no matter what I'm doing, it could be a different activity. Like, I even apply this mentality in my yoga or also just my day-to-day living. I just feel like it's a great quote about being present. And I think that's something I've realized I've also been struggling with this past year, is I have been so blessed with everything that I have going on in my life, but it makes me feel like I'm constantly never present in the current moment, and I'm constantly worrying about the next thing that I have coming up and planning for the next thing. And I keep hitting these breaking points throughout this past year of just like, I just want to feel so present so bad. And I feel like both running and yoga have taught me to do that, maybe in slightly different ways, but I just think it's so important. I think another thing that I talk about a lot on my channel is like my personal life motto that I've been living with for the past, I think it's been 6 years now. I think 6 years now, which is one day at a time. And I feel like this last quote kind of ties into that, of just living in the mile that you're in. I feel like it's really just all ties into the idea of just being where you are currently, like being where your feet are placed physically, and taking it one day at a time, taking it one moment at a time, taking it 1 mile at a time, that kind of thing. Because I mean, honestly, no matter how much you stress about life and what may or may not happen, you can't really control you can control to some extent of like how you might prepare for it, you know, and maybe that will help the outcome. But like at the end of the day, you really can't control the future, you know? So it's like, you might as well just be living in the mile of life that you're in. You might as well be living in the current state of where you're at. So yeah, when I saw that on Pinterest, I was like, this one has to make it into my 26 things that I've learned by 26 video, because I mean, wow, I think it's really changed my mindset and outlook on life in different ways. So yeah, those are the 26 things that I've learned by 26. I made it through the whole video of how getting like emotional, and now that I'm sitting here and finishing this video, I think the emotions are starting to come, but I think they come every year, and I'm trying to be more gracious about it every time they come, because I think for the most part these emotions just come from a state of gratitude, and just the fact that I have made it another year around the sun, I think is a very beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, it's crazy to think that tomorrow I'm 26. That's crazy. I feel like I just finally got used to telling people that I'm 25, so the fact that tomorrow starts a new age of what I have to tell people is crazy, but we'll get used to it again. So but yeah, just overall feeling very grateful for this past year. I mean, for everything. I know there's lots of ups, lots of downs, but lots of lessons along the way, and that's why I love making these videos. I feel like I grow and learn so much every year, and to just like document it as like a little check-in point, like, hey, these are some things that you took away from the year. I personally love looking back on them. If you guys have any interest in them, I think this is the 4th one I filmed now. So the other past 3 ones that I filmed for my prior years, I will link below if you have any interest in watching them. I do have a playlist for them as well, so you can just look at that playlist too if you want. But yeah, I mean, even just seeing my growth and journey through these past now 4 years filming these videos alone, I mean, I just think it's kind of crazy how life works like that, you know? And again, I mean, truly just blessed. It's a blessing for sure to get to film these every year and look back on them. So but yes, all that being said, I think that is all I have for you guys. So as always, I hope you guys are having a great day, but if you're not, that's okay too. And if this is coming around your birthday, you're watching this around your birthday, happy birthday. I hope the day goes well, but if it doesn't, that's okay too. Just do what it takes to celebrate the day how you would want to celebrate it. That's like my advice to literally all my friends that I give them. I'm like, it really doesn't matter how you choose to spend the day, as long as it's however you want to do it. Firm believer that that's what you should do. But all that being said, I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!